so many facets of AI that I can't keep up with it. The person in charge of Meta can't keep up with it. No one can. We just have to adopt it and integrate it into our lives.
I don't think people realize how big of a change this is. Silicon Valley's biggest companies are already planning on pouring $400 billion into artificial intelligence.
With a V, how you can leverage it for your own personal use case as we continue to adopt the way we did to personal phones.
All right, so before we get into today's show, I just want to remind you that we are running a special right now. We only have 7 of these left. As of right now, we announced this to Perpetual Traffic a little less than a week ago. We've already sold 4 of them. I think we're on our way to selling a 5th. But we are offering something that no other agency on the planet is offering, which directly relates to today's episode because it taps into all this AI stuff we're going to be talking about here today. And it is the Creative Diversification Package that we've created over at Tier 11. There's only one way to succeed with Andromeda right now, and it's through creative diversification with data, with CAPI imports, first-click CAPI imports, which you also need to have in order to optimize the algorithm for the right sorts of things that we're going to be talking about on today's show, sort of the mechanics of why all this is happening. But what you really care about is performance for your advertising. So we are offering through the end of the year an insane package where you buy the Creative Diversification Package, which is 30 plus ads, all the 10 different ad formats, 5 to 6 ads every single week, every new week. And you get that ongoing as you can iterate and figure out what's working best. We've talked about this many shows before. The best types of ads are the ones that are actually getting the most spend, not actually the ones that are getting the most conversions. And you get the media buying who knows how to manage those ads, as well as the data behind it for free. So you buy the Creative Diversification Package, you get the media buying, and you get the Tier 11 data suite for free. It's the best package that we have ever offered as an agency, hands down. Now, check it out over at tier11.com/CD. That's tier11.com/CD. Check it out today. Be one of the 7 lucky businesses that get it before this offer is over by the end of the year. Now on to today's show. Hello and welcome to the Perpetual Traffic Podcast. This is your host, Ralph Burns, founder and CEO of Tier 11, alongside my amazingly well-traveled co-hosts,
Lauren Evetrue, founder of Mongoose Media.
I forget which one I'm supposed to do. Like, I think
actually never in Orlando.
Don't say it. You're never in Orlando. Where actually do you live now?
I live where my suitcase is at the moment. I live in Orlando. My house is in Orlando.
Right. In name only, really.
No, I've spent a little bit of time. I'm on a West Coast tour. That's the hard part, right? Like, so today I'm in Vegas, I'm going to Austin and San Diego and at least Phoenix another time. I was in Utah, San Jose last week. There's a lot.
Well, you get around. Today you're in Vegas. You're at like a luxury resort or a luxury like retreat somewhere. Just living where
it's a fabulous Airbnb. The detail, I don't know. Lyft took me here. Today's episode brought to you by the great Lyft ride that I had. Like this driver. So, okay, hold on. Side note. I know we're going to be talking about like AI and like emerging technologies and how we leverage it and such. But I took this driver. He's born and raised in Cuba. His English, minimal at best. He's lived here for 3 years.
Minimal at best.
Minimal. Oh, I spent the entire time speaking to him only in Spanish. But I also had a friend in the car who doesn't speak a word of Spanish. So each of them used the AirPods 3 100%. So they used the AirPods 3 and were translating to each other. Sometimes I'd have to translate back into English because the AirPods 3 didn't catch it. But then our Cuban driver told us he lived in Russia for 5 years and he's using Grok. So he's driving a Tesla. So Elon Musk owns Grok. Elon Musk owns Tesla. There's a natural integration. And he says he's been learning and practicing English using Grok in the Tesla, talking to her, and it will self-correct his pronunciation. So then he was showing us, he was speaking to Russian to Grok, and then it was translating to us in English.
That's incredible.
And it was just like the accessibility that we now have. This is a gentleman who works in Vegas. Everyone is from all over the world. Like, what do you do?
It's amazing. I mean, it's very relevant to today's podcast, which is all about hint, AI, sort of big picture stuff. But that's just one example of how widespread this is. But behind that, just think about the computing power that's necessary in order to be able to have all of that happen simultaneously. It's almost staggering. That's like thousands of GPUs, NVIDIA GPUs being utilized in data centers throughout the Southeast, because you're in Vegas, probably like within miles.
Southwest.
You're actually located.
Yeah.
I guess that's the Southwest. Yeah. You're in the Southeast. Sorry, I got my East and West confused. It's like my left and right. It's very confusing.
Regardless, it's like
the point
at least there's a lot of solar panels.
You know, we could actually solve the world's energy crisis if we just took New Mexico and West Texas and just covered them in solar panels. I read that the other day. Our West Texas and New Mexico friends that listen to this show probably aren't going to be very excited about that. So we'd have to cover over their homes. No. The point is like this stuff is creating like such monumental change in the industry. And I don't think people realize how big of a change this is. And we're really only on the dawn of it. I saw an analysis the other day. Remember when the internet came out? You were probably in like junior high school. Sorry, knock on you. Maybe elementary school. But the internet bubble lasted from 1995 to about March 2000, early 2000. So it was a 5-year span. So a lot of people that are thinking right now, there's a great analysis that was done by this. I'll leave links in the show notes. It's from Investors Business Daily, where they analyzed this. They said, we are not even close to a bubble. Now, these guys, like they want to put more money into their funds, and the stock market goes up, more money that goes into the market. Obviously, the better a lot of these dudes make, billions of dollars. The point is the internet bubble lasted about 5, almost 6 years. We're in about year 3 of the AI bubble. And I'm air quoting that right now because remember when GPT came out? It was 2022.
But that was 2 years after we've already been using AI. So that was like the advent of the new bubble because it had further adoption. I've been using AI for over a year and a half. And OpenAI was one of the models on Jarvis, now Jasper, that I had been using for at least a year and a half prior.
But I think the iPhone moment for AI was when ChatGPT came out.
Agreed.
You know what I mean? It's like it was the big moment. Now, the moment where it had its breakout, like its singular event, its big bang moment. Jensen Huang from NVIDIA actually talks about this as back in 2012 and we were just talking about this before we hit record, when this little company called AlexNet entered a competition for 3 researchers that were in Toronto, Canada. Props to my boys up in Toronto. Unfortunately, they lost this week, World Series. But anyway, they entered a contest where they used this AI model, this large language model, to be able to identify, I believe it was 4 million images, 40 million. It was either 40 million or 4 million. Anyways, these 3 researchers and this AlexNet, it was actually at the time, I think it was like the largest Mechanical Turk test usage ever in time. You remember Mechanical Turk? You'd pay somebody like $2 an hour to do like all these menial tasks. Well, they labeled all these individual images and then they threw it into this thing called AlexNet, and AlexNet then grouped them together like dogs, animals, vegetables, office furniture, all of that.
This sounds like an episode of Silicon Valley, like what Jimmy O Yang did on Silicon Valley.
Exactly. So this is 2012. And the funny thing is the 3 people that engineered that first thing called AlexNet, one of them ended up founding OpenAI. And 2 of the others went to 2 of the other large language model users, 2 of the largest large language model users at that point in time, and bought the technology. Guess which companies those are? Think algorithms, think advertising, think
Amazon.
Feed suggestions.
Suggestions. Shopify.
Feeds.
Instagram. And Meta.
You're thinking those.
I was like,
Instagram, Meta, exactly. Meta and Google were the buyers of this technology, which then completely transformed the suggestion engine inside Meta and Google. And subsequently YouTube, which is a tremendous suggestion algorithm. Now, you take this for granted now because like when you log into Netflix, hopefully you get Netflix, but like they do the suggestions. Like I log into my wife's account, it's all like, English, love stories. You log into mine, it's all sports and war.
Oh my gosh, wait, side note. Ralph, do you know the best thing that you can do to sabotage someone? is you go into their Netflix and then just like Coco Melon or anime shows or just shows in the opposite direction of what they like, and you mess up their algorithm forever. I'm not saying I've ever done this to anyone, Paige. I apologize. But that's like my favorite way to mess up a suggestion engine.
It is so funny. It is so funny. Because we're like, whenever we're watching something on a Friday night, I'm like, oh, whose Netflix are we going to watch? Like, well, we have to watch mine. Of course. Like, I don't want to watch it on mine because I don't want like 15 ways to lose a guy showing up in my feed. You know what I mean? You know, I want like Band of Brothers in the Pacific showing up and like, you know, Thursday Night Football. Anyway, the point is like that suggestion algorithm was the origination all the way back to 2012. So the reason why we have all these algorithm changes right now and this great thing that we call Meta Andromeda, the basis for that, the foundation for that was this thing called AlexNet, a great podcast series called Acquired. I don't know if you listen to other podcasts, but these guys did a whole breakdown of it and where we can go into detail. I'll leave links in the show notes. Amazing podcast. They're super like tech nerdy programmer guys. Totally like not my thing, but I love their show because they basically deconstruct different businesses. And NVIDIA, they have like a 3 or 4 part series on it, which is incredible, which as you might know, NVIDIA is the GPUs that power AI. And that comes originally from the fact that they were the chips that powered all of the video games because it is able to process all of these pixels, all of these animations all at the same time, as opposed to a CPU, which is an incredible thing, still processes everything in a linear fashion, one thing at a time. So that's why we have these large language models today. And that's why these NVIDIA chips are just like everywhere now. And that stock is now worth like 5 trillion in market cap. Can you freaking believe that? Like NVIDIA, 5 trillion.
I think that it's going to be funny because like in like 5 years, we're going to have, as we continue to colonize the moon, there are going to be more startups where trillion becomes the new billion.
It is. It is. I remember when they topped 1 trillion in market cap and then Tesla did it, Meta did it, and Google was right after that. So it's like this wealth that's being created right now from AI is insane. So if you think there's a bubble, you can have opinion one way or the other. However, if you look at the longevity of a bubble, it's usually longer than 3 or 4 years. Now, to your point, you know, there was Jarvis and then it became Jasper. Because they got in trouble with Iron Man, right? Was it Jasper first or was it Jarvis second?
It was Jarvis first, and Disney wrote them a cease and desist letter saying, you can't use Jarvis as the name of your AI assistant. And they had referenced how like, yeah, just like Iron Man, we are your assistants. Or just like Jarvis is to Iron Man, we are you to your marketing team.
Yeah. Whoops, a little bit of copyright infringement there. Oops. So today we're going to get into, we can certainly talk about AlexNet, the evolution of AlexNet. I'll leave links in the show notes for this one because it's so fascinating how it's all sort of happens now. But this is a presentation. If you're listening to this, we'll go through it as much as we possibly can. I would love your take on this because this was a presentation that I just recently did to the Tier 11 internal team. And the Tier 11 internal team, we have a monthly call on AI innovations, specifically inside the agency space, because there's lots of tools. There's tons and tons of tools. Still need a human in the middle of it.
Yeah. There's so many tools that it's hard for anyone to even keep up with it. Like I told you, I got to meet with Meta's AI introducer. Essentially, like his role is to test and present AI tools to the thousands of product marketers, product managers in Meta's ecosystem. And like he's full-time dedicated to testing and trying to then encourage implementation across the Meta entity. And he's exhausted from his job. And that's his full-time gig.
It's his full-time gig. Yeah. So we now have, like my HR guy, half of his role now is AI adoption within Tier 11. And we actually, so one of the 2 things that I over-index in our company is HR, because I think people development is super important because happy people create happy customers. It's just, that's the way that it is. It's my management philosophy. That's a whole other podcast if we ever want to talk about it. Mm-hmm. Secondly, AI is the tool that makes great employees extraordinary employees if it's deployed the right way. Good employees, maybe even very good or great, depending, but ones that don't adopt it are being left behind. And so I'm not saying that we have a problem with that specifically, but we want to be in the vanguard of it. We want to be the ones that are actually pushing the envelope on that and using these tools not in a deceptive way by not telling clients, but using them as leveraging them to do better work. And it's all powered by these investments in these companies now, which is like in the trillions and trillions of dollars. So I think my team maybe didn't quite connect the dots. And I think a lot of people don't connect the dots into how big tech is investing so heavily in this. And this is just recent, last week. A lot of these big tech companies, Google, Amazon, Meta, you talked about, before we hit record here today, Tesla, they're investing trillions into data centers, into, server farms, all of this stuff. And they're doing it like this is smart money. They realize that, and Zuckerberg even said it. He's like, we're lacking computing power. We need more right now. We're in a dearth of compute, which is crazy to think about it, especially with the Andromeda update, which we talked about so much here, which is all powered by AI. So before I get into the presentation, thoughts, concerns, questions, confessions?
One thing that links to mind is this, not just the private enterprises that are investing, like they're government entities. I mean, what's coming out of the Middle East and this serious investment that many of the royal families are making into server farms and into producing the support so that they can become an AI hub, right? Like we have tech hubs, Charlotte's emerging in the United States, San Francisco and Austin are big ones. And there are global ramifications of governments. Trump has currently been doing a big investment into the Texas area. Like it's at a global scale. And I think the long and short of it is it's not going away. It's continuously evolving. We're in the early stages of the bubble-like period, but you have to take in consideration that this isn't new. It's over a decade old and it's going to continue to grow. And a lot of the things that we're familiar with from a sci-fi perspective are coming to the forefront. And if you've been afraid or hesitant to adoption, I think a lot of things that you're going to show and what we talked about at the beginning of this episode is like how you can leverage it for your own personal use case as we continue to adopt the way we did to personal phones.
Yeah, exactly. 2022 was the iPhone moment, but the big bang moment was back in 2012, sort of with this AlexNet. And that's sort of the way that it's been explained. And I can't disagree. Like it was on our radar, but all of a sudden, OpenAI was the fastest to 100 million downloads for an app in history?
Yeah.
Like there's a reason why. There's a reason why, because it is so incredibly powerful. Now, I tend to go towards Gemini more these days, but either way, like this stuff ain't going anywhere. So,
and you're only thinking about the West ones, like there's the ones in France. There's a bunch that are coming out in China all the time. Like we're so limited. I mean, depending on where you're listening in from, and if you're watching on YouTube, like let us know where you're watching in from because you can comment. Well, it's just the globalization, like we are so leveraged to only know or biased about what we can consume in the West because we don't have that same exposure. Like I honestly have not heard much about what is coming out of India with regards to AI, but I can tell you from the space exploration stuff, because I work with clients that are in space related materials, the amount of presence that India has on the moon, Russia and China, eclipses what anyone listening likely thinks, because it's such a strong investment that I imagine that the same is being applied in AI. But you and I both live in the United States, and what we're exposed to is predominantly Western tools of AI. But like what China and some parts of Europe are coming out is exploding on this space. I mean, everyone talked about Neo, the robot, right? That's also an emerging technology leveraging AI. And there's so many facets of AI that all that is like, the confession is I can't keep up with it. The person in charge at Meta can't keep up with it. No one can. We just have to adopt it and integrate it into our lives.
So funny. The person at Meta can't keep up with it.
Best as we can.
That's so funny. It's like if he can't
just
keep up with it, like how can we all keep up with it?
But we don't have to keep up with all of it.
Right.
Like you said, there's a new tool that comes out like every other day, if not thousands of new tools every day. And a lot of them are just like interface hacking of leveraging a tool like what Jasper did. They borrowed 2 other systems. They built Jasper off of OpenAI and several other models. And it's just the accessibility of using AI more and more. And I know that when you talked about this is really cool because it's how your team is adopting it. So if you're listening to if you're currently using AI a little bit or not enough, like one, it's okay. we're figuring this out together. And two, here are some examples that Ralph and his team are actually using.
Yeah.
So watch on YouTube.
I think this is just really explains sort of the breadth of what's happening and to make people realize that what's happening right now is just the very, very beginning. It's really just the start. I mean, I don't even want to go into like agents and all the other sorts of things, which is sort of the next evolution of it. We can talk about that in future episodes, but let's talk about the here and now as far as AI is concerned. So if you're watching on YouTube, of course, it's perpetualtraffic.com/YouTube. If you're listening, definitely check it out over there. So here is market values as a share of the S&P 500's total value. So S&P 500 is 500 of the what Wall Street deems the most relevant, not necessarily largest, but influential stocks on the market, largely dominated by the tech companies, which are commonly referred to as the FANGs. And this is a chart here that actually shows market values as a share of S&P's total value. So basically, you can see from 2015 through 2025 into 2026, Tesla, Meta, Amazon, Alphabet, Apple, Microsoft, NVIDIA, their value is, if you aggregate all of that together, that's about 25% of the value of the total S&P.
35%
is pop. Oh,
it's 35%.
35%. 35% of the S&P's total value is driven by stocks that are heavily invested and or rely upon artificial intelligence. That's incredible. And Apple isn't even doing a really good job at it, quite honestly. Like, we all know the Siri sucks. I mean, Siri really does suck. And they're so behind everybody else. But the point is like they're heavily invested into AI. So Silicon Valley's biggest companies, these companies here, are already planning on pouring $400 billion into artificial intelligence
with a B
this year, 2025, with a B.
Well, we know that 65 is from Meta.
81 now is from Meta.
Oh my!
Believe it or not, I'm gonna slide on that. It's incredible. The next chart, you'll actually sort of blow your mind. So, and they all say this just came out last week. This was as of this recording last week. Early part of October or late part of October. They all said collectively it's nowhere near enough. So you're spending this, but you're like, we still have a long way to go. So if you think we're in an AI bubble right now, it's hard to believe that that's the case. Now, the internet was overbuilt in the 2000s, 99 and 2000s, but I don't think we're anywhere close here. Like, the question is how we're going to actually power it and where the water is going to come from. That's what my wife always says. Well, they suck up so much electricity and so much water. I'm like, yes, they recycle a lot of the water, but the electricity, yes, that's a problem. So the point is, I'm not exactly sure where all that's going to come from, but let's set that aside. So here's another graph. So this is investment capital expenditures quarterly for the big four: Meta, Alphabet, which is Google, Amazon, Microsoft. Obviously, these guys are heavily invested into AI. Capital expenditures into AI. Meta in 2025, we've been saying $61 billion that they are investing in 2025. Well, it was actually $71 billion. They upped that another $10 billion this year just for the final quarter. So they went from $61 billion to $71 billion investing in all of this stuff, which is data centers, all the things that we're going to talk about here in just a second. But they are projecting in 2027, $115 billion in investment.
It makes me want to throw up a little
amount.
Oh,
I mean, can you believe that?
Why do my ads cost as much as they do right now? What the heck? Because they're getting ready to raise the money to fund this.
Well, hopefully that investment will make your ads more efficient because of the Andromeda update. But they've really, we've been talking about the Andromeda update here. We'll leave links in the show notes to all the shows that we've done on it, with content diversification, all the other sorts of things that are so important. But the point is Zuckerberg, direct quote from, he says, "We are running in a compute-starved state." A compute-starved state, even with a $71 billion investment in 2025, there's such an appetite for more compute, which is basically more servers, more data centers, more GPU chips to power all this stuff. So Microsoft will double their data center output over the next 2 years. double their data center output. Like if you're living in these neighborhoods, and I'll show you one of them, it's in the middle of nowhere, just a second here, as will Google, Amazon, and even Apple, lo and behold, who is being kind of left behind with all this, but still they're not even on this chart. These companies thought that they were catching up, but recently reported, all of them together, that they're actually short on capacity, even with this type of investment. Can you freaking believe that? I know.
I'm at a loss of words. I'm like, the best is it's staggering. Like, this is unreal. Like, all I keep thinking was like, okay, well, I need to go buy acreage of land in West Texas and sit on it until they eventually convert that into data center land. Like, it's just, power is the new level of gold. Yeah, unless it gets like eminent domain saying we surrender this land and it's now ours, says the government. I'm like, oh shit. Yeah. But okay, so for those that are not,
think of all those ranchers that are just like, just like rubbing their hands together, like, oh, my 400-acre farm, I can sell it to Microsoft. Of course, they sell them.
Solar access is the new petroleum. Yeah, fair.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh man.
So crazy stuff. All right, so I hope you enjoyed today's show. That is part one of a two-part series here. Like I said, if you are not watching along, you maybe were listening along, check us out over our YouTube channel at perpetualtraffic.com/YouTube. You can follow along to the presentation there, see the graphics. Some of this stuff is absolutely mind-blowing, how much is now being spent. And the reason why they're spending all of this is because they realize, all these tech platforms, they realize that this is the future. And specifically for Meta and for Google and the advertising side, Amazon, as well as Apple, as well as a lot of other tech companies we really didn't even talk about here today. One of the keys to all of this is being able to have creative that is diversified. And yes, once again, you can get the Creative Diversification Package. If you qualify, once again, you buy the Creative Diversification Package, which is the only way to leverage Meta Andromeda right now. We've talked about it many times here on the show. You get the 10 creative types. You get fresh creative every single week, 5, 6, 7 creatives every single week, a minimum of 30 plus per month, which is what feeds the algorithm. And you buy that package, you get the media buying and the Tier 11 data suite for free. We have never done this before. This is an insanely great deal to set you up for success. However, you have to qualify. Check it out over at tier11.com/CD. That's tier11.com/CD. And of course, wherever you listen to podcasts, leave us a rating and review. We'd love to hear from you about this episode and any other episodes. And all the show notes are, of course, over at perpetualtraffic.com for part one of this two-part series on how AI is revolutionizing the industry that we all operate in here today. So on behalf of my amazing co-host, Lauren E. Petrullo, until next show.
Ciao.
See ya.